Welcome to the Voice of the Beginning, the Word of the Bible. Before we begin, help us spread the word. Subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share with those you love.
And God said, "Let the earth produce green grass, grass that yields seed." And it was so. At that moment the earth, which had previously been only formed and structured, began to bring forth visible life. God placed within it the capacity to multiply, determining that every plant, every herb, and every tree would carry within itself a seed, ensuring that life would not only emerge, but also continue and expand. Nothing in the Creator's plan is sterile. Everything is born with the potential to bear fruit. In the spiritual realm, this truth is repeated. What God plants in us is always fertile, for His word is living and powerful. When that word finds a willing, receptive, and open heart, it becomes like a seed sown in good soil. It germinates at the right time, develops deep roots, grows with strength, and inevitably produces abundant fruit. Thus, what God begins in us is never left unfinished. He always carries His work through until the purpose is fully accomplished. And there was evening and there was morning, the third day. The third day carries within it the symbol of resurrection, the reminder that after darkness, there is always light. It is the sign that the cycle of life is already in full motion, fulfilling the purpose established by God from the very beginning. The night may be long, marked by silence and uncertainty, but the morning always comes, and with it hope is renewed. In this new beginning we find the proof that nothing remains dead forever when it is in the hands of the Creator, for He turns mourning into joy and darkness into a new dawn. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night." At that moment, God created the sun, the moon, and the stars, giving them the role of marking the times, the seasons, and the years. From then on, the rhythm of creation began to be guided by repeating cycles, revealing that there is a set time for every purpose under heaven. Spiritually, it is the same. We need to discern the seasons of the soul, to understand that not all days are the same, and that each phase of life has its role in God's work within us. There are days of intense light, when everything is clarity and warmth, and there are silent nights when we learn to wait and trust. Yet in all of them, whether in joy or in trial, God remains in absolute control, reigning over every detail and leading our story with perfection. And God made the two great lights, and God saw that it was good. The greater light was established to govern the day, and the lesser to govern the night. Each fulfills its role with perfection, for even in darkness there is enough light to guide us. Nothing was created by chance. Everything has a purpose defined by the Creator. Life is the same way. Even in the darkest seasons, when the light seems faint and distant, God still grants us direction and clarity. His presence never fades, and the light He sends is always enough to lead us, step by step, until the dawn arrives. In every season, whether in full brightness or in gentle glow, He continues to light our path with faithfulness. And there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. Another day comes to an end, marking the close of one stage and the advancement to the next. The process of creation continues its course, revealing that God builds everything in stages, with order and purpose. Each phase carries its own beauty and importance, even if, to our eyes, it seems incomplete. So it is in our journey. There are moments of beginning, of development, and of completion, all necessary for the work to be perfect. Nothing happens all at once. God works patiently, shaping every detail until everything is ready. And with each day that ends, He reminds us that the cycle goes on, and that every step brings us closer to the fulfillment of His plan. And God said, "Let the waters abound with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the face of the expanse of the heavens." At that moment, life began to move in a vibrant way. The waters, once silent, were now filled with beings that swim and glide, while the skies became the stage for the flight of birds. There is movement, there is dynamism, there is newness. Spiritually, this scene speaks of fluidity, movement, and freedom, the ability to occupy the space for which we were created. A living soul is one that does not remain static, but responds to the touch of the Creator, moving according to the breath of His will. Just as the waters and the skies were filled, God also desires to fill our lives with the fullness of His presence, causing us to overflow and soar high, fulfilling the purpose for which we were formed. On the sixth day, God created the most important part of creation. First, He formed the animals of the earth, the cattle, the wild animals, and the creeping creatures. But the masterpiece came next. God created man and woman in His image and likeness. He blessed us, gave us authority to care for the earth, and made us stewards of creation. This means that you and I were created with a purpose, to reflect God's character, to live in communion with Him, and to care for what He has placed in our hands. We are not the product of chance. We are the Creator's masterpiece. On the sixth day, God said, "Everything was very good, and you are part of that very good." Even rest was created by God. After creating the heavens and the earth and everything in them, God finished His work. On the seventh day, He rested, not because He was tired, but to set an example for us. He blessed and sanctified the seventh day, making it special. God's rest teaches us that our life is not only about work, but also about communion with the Creator. Just as God set aside the seventh day, we too need to set aside time to be with Him. Renew our strength, and remember that everything comes from Him. The seventh day reminds us, resting in God is part of His plan for our lives. The book of Genesis is the beginning of everything: creation, humanity, sin, and also the promise of redemption. It shows us that God is the sovereign Creator, who made all things with order and purpose. It also reveals the dignity of the human being, created in God's image but who chose to disobey. Even so, Genesis points us to grace, for since Eden, God has promised a Savior. Genesis reminds us that we are not here by chance. We were created to live in communion with God, but we only find full restoration when we recognize our dependence on Him and trust in His promises. May this word take root in your spirit and guide your steps. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.